let's try to program our GUI design for the BMI calculator in Android Studio. So go to VirtualBox over here, and then go to your virtual machine, launch it, and then go to Android Studio. Okay. Now, if you look at that, if you recall our previous design for the GUI, okay, we're going to make use of 3 GUI components. The text view for displaying instructions or answers. We're going to have some edit text for prompting the user for inputs, and then also a button for the user to say, now start the computation. And now it's really important to emphasize this again. The computation itself does not occur in the view components as we talk about the model view controller pattern. So we got controller, we got view, and we got model. So currently we are doing the view. The view itself has nothing intelligence. It only has a place for the user to enter inputs and also display the outputs. And what the computation will do is not up to the view. So somehow the input that has been entered in the view part will be passed to the model. Okay, the computation does not occur in the view. So that's something you really have to keep in mind. The view itself has nothing intelligence. Only the model does. Okay, that's something we'll focus on later. Okay, so now let's go back to Android Studio here, and then remember our design over here. So we're gonna have some text view, some text box, and also some button, and also some text view. That's something we will translate into Android Studio. It's actually quite recommended that you try not to program in Android Studio right away. Maybe write down your design on a piece of paper and then play with the layout and then translate literally the layout into Android Studio. That's actually much more advised. Okay, now go back to Android Studio here. Remember, for the view file, it's going to be the XML file. How do we find the XML file? It's with the XML extension under, okay, go to projects, under, okay, go to project here, project over here, and go under app, go under REST for resources, and then layout. You got the XML file right here. So there are 2 possible ways to change this view XML file. Either you can see that at the bottom over here, we got 2 tabs over here. One is design, the other one is text. The design here is the design perspective for your view file, which is completely graphical. This corresponds to exactly what is going to be displayed on your mobile screen. On the other hand, if you switch the perspective to text, so this shows you the contents of some XML documents. And we'll talk about how the XML document is generally structured in later video. But for now, let's have a look at how these 2 perspectives are equivalents. So one view has exactly the same information as the other view. If you go to design over here, you will see that there's only one GUI component over here called Hello World. And there's another way you can verify this. You can see there's a panel over here called component tree. And you can see there's only one GUI component here with Hello World. We'll talk about what this means, and what this means in just a moment. Okay, and then we got only one GUI component here. So how does this correspond to the XML file? If you go to the text view, you will see that this is exactly this fragment of XML code that corresponds to the GUI component we saw over there, Hello World. Okay, you can see the Hello World over here, and it's a text view. Okay, so now let's try something here. So these 2 views have seamless transition to each other, which means if I try to change something on one view, it should be reflected on the other view automatically. So Hello World, let me change that in the XML side to Hello Java. Okay, after this, if I switch back to design over here, you can see it's now Hello Java. Okay, now Hello Java here, let's change something from this view here. Double click on this GUI component here, and let's say rather than Hello Java, let's say Hello World again. Okay, and then go to text over here, you can see Hello World, right? So now a small exercise for you. How do we delete this GUI component here? How many possible ways are there for us to do it? So there are actually 2 possible ways. Either you can just get rid of this fragment of XML code completely, and it will be reflected back to the GUI, the design view. Or you can delete this one directly, click on that, right click, and then delete. After this, if you switch back to the XML file view, it's gone. Okay, so you should really see that. So these two views are completely equivalent. So which view should you use? In principle, you should only have to use the design view, the graphical way, the graphical perspective to drag and drop the GUI components from here, from this panel over here. We got all sorts of stuff over here. So you can just do the drag and drop and then enter some attribute values over here on your mobile screen. It's much more visual. There might be some occasions where it is more convenient for you to change the values of your GUI in the XML file. However, if you should you choose to do this, you have to be careful, because even a tiny mistake you make can actually make everything stop to work. So that means you really have to understand reasonably well how the XML file is structured. But we have some later video to show you how you can understand the XML documents. Okay, let's go to design perspective over here. So now let's do the design. Let's translate our design programmatically into Android Studio. Okay, so we're gonna have some text view for instruction and some text field for input. Okay, so now there's the three components we're gonna use. Let's identify them first. Under layout, we have beg your pardon. So under widgets, we got plain text view. Okay, so this is for us to do instructions and display the output. And also under widgets, we also got button. So this is for the user to say now start a computation. Also under text fields, we got plain text. So this is the box for user to enter inputs. Okay, first of all, let's put an instruction for the user to enter the name. Okay, left click, drag, and then make sure it's locked to the border, align well and locked to the border, and then release. So it's a drag and drop process. Left click, drag, make sure it's locked and align reasonably well, and then drop. Okay, so now it's there. Now double click on this GUI components here. There are two things over here. One is called text, the other one is called ID. Text is exactly what's going to be displayed on your mobile screen. ID is some unique identifier that is going to be used internally by the controller. Remember, in the model view controller pattern, one of the components is called controller. So somehow the controller is going to make use of the information, like the input that's being entered in the view part. That's something we'll see how it can be achieved. Okay, so now, but both have to be specified in this case. For the text, we can give some instruction here. Enter, you can type enter your name. Okay, the colon over here tells the user that below there should be a box for you to enter your inputs for your name. And then over here, the ID, let's follow some good convention. The convention is for compound words, the first word, in this case text, should be in all lower cases. And starting from the second word, in this case the view, should be capitalized. Okay, so now because this is a label, so why don't we just put label as a prefix? So for all the labels, GUI components, we're going to put label to begin with. Label for the name. Okay, enter. Okay, this one is done. If you see that in the component tree over here, the panel over here, you can see there's only one GUI component here. And the label, the ID, unique identifier that's going to be used by the controller is label name. And also, the kind of GUI component is called text view. And also, this is the text. So you should really understand what these three things here really mean. Okay, let's now, immediately below this, we're going to put the input box. Okay, go to plain text, and then drag and drop. Don't drop yet. You should really make sure it's locked, properly aligned, and then drop. And then expand this all the way to the right. Okay, right click on this, and now the text should be something that you can put. However, the text for input box is optional. Okay, so typically we don't really put any text over here. But for the ID, let's put some meaningful name. It's going to be for your input. So input for the name. Okay. enter. So far we have two GUI components, label name, input name. One is a text view, the other one is an edit text. And one has the text, enter your name, and the other one has no text. Okay. So far we have done with the blue and green. We're going to do another two pairs of a blue and green. Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, let's do that. Again, to do a drag and drop, left click, let's say left click on the plain text view, left click, drag, and then let's say we put it here with some space between, and then make sure it's aligned well to the left, drop. Okay, double click, and now the text should be enter your weight. Remember, for calculating the BMI, the body mass index, it should be weight divided by the square of height, and the weight here should be in kilograms, and the height should be in meters. So now let's give some more informative description for the user as instructions. Enter your weight in kilograms, and then put a colon here. And now this is just another labels with a common prefix label for the weights. Enter. Okay, this one's done. Now let's drag and drop some plain text for entering the input. Drag, make sure it's aligned well. Okay, immediately below, lock to the border, drop. Okay, now expand all the way to the right, to the other side of the border. So now double click on this, and now the text should be optional, and then we don't put text for input text field. And now here we can say input for the weights. Okay, you can see so far we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 GUI components. Okay, now one more. Okay, we're gonna do one more. The heights, the blue and green here. So now for we're gonna do plain text view, drag, make sure it's with some gap over here, make sure it's locked, and then drop. Double click, and then over here, actually the view, let me just, you can undo, Control Z to undo. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, I want to make it a little bit better. Okay, plain text view, drag. Okay, let's over here. Okay, that's better. Okay, make sure it's aligned properly and drop. You can always undo by using Control plus Z on your keyboard. And then double click. And now we can say enter your heights in meters, colon. And then here, this is just another label with a common prefix label for height. Enter. Okay, and then let's now do a plain text for entering inputs. Drag, make sure it's aligned immediately below, and now drop. Expand all the way to the right. Okay, so now double click on this. So now the text should be optional, and we don't put text for input text field. And now it will be input for the height. Okay, so now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 GUI components. Okay, we got 6 over there. Okay, so now what we have done are the 3 pairs of blue and green over here. So now let's do the button here. Okay, so now for the button there, under widgets, let's go to button here, and now let's drag and make sure it's aligned well. Okay, let's have some, okay, that looks reasonable, and drop. And now let's expand that all the way to the end, like that. And then double click, and now let's give some informative text to say, hit on this button, and then computation shall start. Compute BMI. And then the button here, we're going to say, it's basically like a command, but we can still say button, or you can simply say button compute. How about that? Okay, you can make whatever name you like, as long as you're naming your IDs consistently and informatively. And then enter. Okay, compute BMI. Okay, so now we got also this pink part covered. One more thing, which is the answer. Okay, it's gonna be a text view. So go to plain text view, drag all the way, and make sure it's aligned well. Okay, lock it to the left, drop. Expand it all the way to the right. Now we want to make sure the text is, what should be the text? The text can be, just say answer over here. So answer will just be displayed in the very beginning. As soon as the user hits the compute BMI button, we're going to change that to whatever the BMI value it is. Answer. And over here, we can say label answer. Okay? And now, let's now make sure this is to the center. Now, how do we change the property for this particular GUI components? If you click on this GUI components, you will see underneath component tree, there's something called properties. So the properties here is exactly the properties for this GUI component that we just click. So now, let's scroll down. You should see somewhere something to do with alignment. Text alignment over here. Okay, click on that, and you can choose. Okay, sorry. So now you can choose over here in the drop-down menu here, and choose center, and enter. Okay, so now you can see now the answer is now centered around over here. Okay, whatever answer that's going to be displayed is going to be displayed over here. Okay, you can also play with maybe color, also font size. That's something I'll leave to you. Okay, but typically you should. Okay, let's recap very quickly. So now what we have done is basically that there are two possible ways for you to modify the your GUI design in Android. Either the text view, which is XML documents, or the design view, which is graphical. Just do the drag and drop of the GUI components. For every GUI component, which you can see under the component tree over here, the panel over here, at the moment we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We got 8 GUI components. Each one of them has a unique identifier that is going to be used by the controller. Label name, label weight, input weight, and etc. until label answer. And then over here, what's in parentheses is the kind of GUI components we have. It can be either text view, edit text, or it can be a button. And then also we have some text over here, compute BMI, answer, etc. Okay, so again, in general, it is recommended that you try to do your GUI design on a piece of paper. Try to play with the layout, have some idea on the paper, and then you can do the straightforward translation from paper into Android. Okay, and typically you will be advised to just use the design perspective, and there might be some occasions you're gonna use XML perspective, but I will show you later in the video.